She told me she needed space. I gave her silence. Then I flew to Tuscany with her father. I'd been with Camille for 3 years when she sat me down one Tuesday evening and said she needed a week to herself. No explanation. Just that she was going to her friend Jade's cabin upstate to clear her head. I didn't push. I'd learned by then that pushing Camille only made her walls go up faster. I said okay. I told her to have a good trip. She looked almost annoyed that I didn't fight her on it. The next morning, her dad Marco called me. We'd always been close. The kind of close where he'd text me sports scores and ask my opinion on things he never asked Camille about. He sounded off on the phone, quiet in a way that felt heavy. He asked if I could come by, said he needed to show me something in person. I found him at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. He's not a man who wastes words. He just turned his laptop around and let me look. It was a location tag. Camille had posted a story on her secondary account, the one she didn't know I knew about, and she wasn't upstate. She was in the city. Specifically, she was at a rooftop bar I'd never heard of, pressed against a man I'd never seen, with the kind of body language that doesn't leave room for interpretation. There were 3 slides. I looked at all 3. Marco closed the laptop slowly. He didn't say I'm sorry. He just said, she didn't get this from her mother. I sat with that for a long moment. Then something shifted in me. Not rage. Something colder and cleaner than that. I looked at Marco and I said, you mentioned last fall that you'd always wanted to see Sienna. He looked at me for a second. I did say that. I have the time off. I never used it. He was quiet. Then, when would we leave? We were on a flight out of Newark 40 hours later. I want to be clear about what the trip was. It was 2 people who'd both been let down by the same person, choosing not to let that define the week. Marco had spent 30 years building a life for a daughter who'd learned somewhere along the way that the people who loved her were optional. He deserved Sienna. He deserved the drive through the hills, the wine older than either of us, the afternoon where we sat outside a restaurant for 3 hours just talking about nothing important. I took one photo, Marco laughing at something I'd said, olive trees behind him, real light on his face. I posted it without a caption. Camille called within the hour. Her voice had that particular quality it gets when she's trying to sound calm and isn't. She asked where I was. I told her. She asked why I was with her father. I said because he's good company, and we both had the time. Then she asked, and I could hear her working to keep the question casual, how long we'd been planning this. I told her we hadn't planned it at all, that sometimes you just decide to go. She said that was weird. I agreed with her that it was a little unexpected. She didn't bring up the rooftop. I didn't bring up the rooftop. We both knew I knew. That was enough. She said we needed to talk when I got back. I said sure. What I didn't tell her was that Marco and I had already talked, really talked on over dinner the second night, and he'd said something I keep coming back to. He said the hardest thing isn't finding out someone isn't who you thought. It's accepting that you already knew, and kept choosing not to look. I'd known something was off for months. I just kept looking away. I didn't go back to the apartment when I landed. I'd made arrangements before the flight home. Marco helped me carry the last box to my car. He shook my hand, then pulled me in. He said, she doesn't know what she had. I drove away and didn't look back. That was enough of an ending for me.